What's up, YouTube? So today we're going to go through a front-end style phone screen for a React job. So if you're going for a front-end web developer, a junior position, this is an example of a pretty quick phone screen question to see if you can get to the next step. So let's jump right in. So this is a question that I had in the past, and one that's pretty common, or a style of this that's pretty common. So usually they test, can you create a component? Can you create lists? Can you render things to the DOM, etc.? So let's jump right in. So right here, I have 3 user stories. And the first user story is, as a user, I want to click a button to show a current time. As a user, I want to click the button more than once and display each current time on the click in the list. And as a user, I want to be able to delete individual times. So before diving into code, let's go in and pseudocode and let's talk out loud as we do it. This is a really good strategy because it shows your interviewer that you take a step back to think before you code, and you also can articulate your thoughts out loud. So going in here, as a user, I want to click a button to show the current time. So let's think about the steps that we have to do to achieve this. So first, we have to render a button to the screen. Then after that, we have to create a handler function to add the time, and then we have to create the time and add to our storage container. So let's focus on this first, and then we'll go on to the next task. So we need to render a button to the screen. Right now I'm using Create React App, just super simple, spun it up. And on the right, you can see our workspace. So let's add a button. And this button will have a plus. So that's right here. And let's add a click event. And let's call this handle add. And up here, let's make our function. So handle add. This won't take in anything. And let's console.log added. So every time we click plus, added is printed down at the console. So next, so we've rendered the button to the screen, created a handler function. Now we need to create a time. So there is a way in JavaScript to extract the current time. So whenever this is clicked, we're going to make a new time. So const current time equals new date. And on this date object, we have a handful of methods to extract what we need. So we want minutes, seconds, and hours. So let's say hours equals current time dot get hours. So that will give us our hours in a number. Const minutes equals current time dot get minutes. Const seconds equals current time dot get seconds. Okay, so now we have each of our numbers, and let's display it in a string. That's the most straightforward way. So using template literals in ES6, we can create this really quickly. So const now, we'll just call it now. And using backticks, we're going to pass in hours, and then again, minutes and seconds. So now let's print this out on the console. So whenever I click this button, it will display the time at which I clicked this button. Perfect. And if we want to make this even more unique, we can say milliseconds equals current time dot get milliseconds. And here, you can pass in milliseconds. Perfect. Okay, so now we need some kind of storage container. Since I know this will be a list in the second user story, we'll add it right now. So we can use the brand new React use state. So this is different than setting state. This is new in the newest version of React. And if you show your interviewer that you've been keeping up with React, they'll probably be pretty impressed. So the way this works is you have your container, and then you have your method or whatever. So right here, we'll use some destructuring. So we'll call this current time. Actually, we already have current time. So we'll just call this date, and we'll replace all these with date. So we'll call this current time, and then our function to set this, our setter, is set current time. So now what we do is we have use state, and then we pass in our default value, which will be an empty array. So we're going to be storing all of our times in this array. So now what we need to do is we need to add this time and then display it to the screen. So we can copy our array, push our time to our array, and then we'll display on screen down here. So generally with React, you never want to mutate arrays directly. You want to copy them. That's been a pattern that's been super popular. So down here, we will say const new current time, or we'll call this times plural. And then this is current times. And what we can do is use a spread operator, which basically makes a copy of this array and iterates over and places them in a new array. So it takes the old times, copies them into a new array, and then we can say new current times, and we can add our time right now that we've generated, and now we just need to set this. So we can say set current times, new current times. And now just to fulfill that first user story, what we can do is create a quick div, and we can snag that first character. So current times 0. And so we're basically taking the first time here and just displaying here just to make sure this works. Perfect. So now we've done that. So this user story is done. So let's go to the next one. So as a user, I want to click the button more than once and display each current time on the list. So in here, we want an unordered or ordered list. And then we know that there is a way to map in React, to map an array to list items or any other type of items. So right now we need to map the list of current times to an array, or to a list of LIs. So what we need to do here now is, this is basically pretty straightforward. So we will replace this div with an unordered list, and inside here, we will grab our current times dot map, and the arguments are current time, which could be anything. We can name it anything. Current time and index. And now what we need to do is we need to return a list item. And this list item is a key. In React, we always have unique keys. So we'll pass in the index. And we'll just display the current time. So let's see where this is breaking now. So I think there is, let's see what the issue is. So function call expressions. So we can actually put this in one line real quick. And okay, perfect. So now we have time 1, time 2, time 3. So that fulfills the second user story. So now we've basically added all of our times to our array up here. And now every time this array maps, and it maps the list of current times into list items. So next, as a user, I want to be able to delete individual times. So that basically means that on each time we'll have to have some way of deleting it. So add a delete button to each time. And we also need a way to delete time. So let's make a handler function to delete the time. And this needs the index in the array. So usually we grab the index in the array to go into the array and delete that certain piece of information. And that's pretty much it. Then we just need to update the state. So to add a delete button, pretty straightforward. We go into the list item element and we add a button. And let's just follow the convention and add a minus here. And we need an onClick function. And when you want to pass in an argument, we need to write an arrow function. It's implicitly determined up here, and this we're making it explicit, so we'll call it handle delete. And here's the tricky part here. So the argument that goes in here is actually the event object. So every time you make a click or do other things with a DOM, there's an event object. So we want to be able to pass the index in here, but we can't pass it in here. This is the event object. So what we need to do is pass it into the function itself. So up here, we'll make our handle delete. And what does our handle delete take in? Takes in an index. Okay, so now basically we need to delete the index from current times, and we need to update current times. Now there are a handful of ways that you can delete the index. So again, we're just going to copy new current times, and we can use the same strategy what we used up there. And now we need to be able to delete this. So it's pretty straightforward in JavaScript. There are a handful of different ways, but I would recommend after you've copied your array, just using the splice method. So new current times dot splice. And what we need is we need to pass in the index, and then we need to pass in the index and afterward how many we want to delete. So we want to delete one item in our array. And now we just need to update our current times. So set current times, and we're going to pass in new current times. Okay, so now let's add, we can make this bigger actually, so let's add our times. Now let's delete specific ones. So 520, 176, 36, 787. So in an interview, the ultimate goal is you want to show the interviewer that you're proficient in the question that they've given you. So don't go overboard with styling, don't do any of that other stuff first. I would A, think about it, pseudocode. B, as you're coding, communicate effectively, talk out loud as you're coding, and also talk out loud as you're pseudocoding. You can ask the interviewer any questions, any things that could come up, resolve any things that are unclear, and then you can jump into coding and make sure to keep an open dialogue with your interviewer. This is really, really important. Creates kind of rapport with your interviewer. So yeah, overall, these phone screens are usually pretty quick. They're 15 to 20 minutes. Sometimes they can be 30 minutes, but usually they give you a pretty straightforward question just to see if you're proficient enough to move on to the next step. So if you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe below, and also shoot me a comment saying what one of your biggest challenges have been applying to these jobs. Some of these interviews, they can throw any random question at you. Sometimes they can be ruthless, totally unfair, but I would say a lot of the time they will give you, at least for a junior position, a pretty straightforward question. It might be a little challenging, it might make you think through some things, but as long as you're a clear communicator and you can think through things slowly and don't jump into coding right away, then you'll probably be fine. Make sure to check out some of my previous videos. I have a previous one on how to become a software engineer as efficiently and quickly as possible, and a few others on internships, etc. So if you like these videos, leave a thumbs up.